Hey, it's Mark here from F45 Victoria Park, and we've put this video together for you specifically for the purpose of goal setting for the challenge that's coming up. Now, first of all, congratulations for committing to doing the 8-week challenge. This is something we run regularly through the year. However, every challenge is different. So whether this is your first time doing the challenge or you're a veteran of challenges, it's so important to set these goals right at the beginning. And what we see time and time again from the guys who perform outstandingly on the challenges are the people who have taken the time to set these goals well right at the beginning and get very, very clear on what they want to achieve. A lot of time and effort has been put together in creating this workbook for you, so please take the time to do it. It'll be just a small fraction of time out of your week, but when you do it well and you commit to this process of goal setting, then your results will be significantly amplified. Your commitment to it, you'll find the motivation. It also starts to program your whole neurology from your brain all the way down to your big toe. All starts to pull into line around how you want to be over the next 8 weeks in order to achieve those results. It helps you plan, it helps you create the commitments, and it gets what's called the reticular activating system of your brain switched on, so you will start to automatically tune into the things that will help you achieve your results. So I'm going to switch off the camera now. We're going to bring up the workbook and going to talk you through how to set all of these your goals and the purposes behind each of the questions, so you've got a greater understanding of what happens with this goal setting, and how you can also then take these skills and start to utilize them in different areas of your life. So let's get started. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment to go and download your book. This should be emailed to you. If you haven't had an email, then please let us know. Email the studio and we will send it straight out to you. And as you skip forward, there are a few pages of introduction that will give you some background into how all this works and what you need to know about the challenge. But then I want you to steer your attention towards my measurements. Now, if you've already done your scans, you'll already have some of these measures. Regardless, these are things you can do yourself. And ultimately, when we look at goals, every goal should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and have a time frame. Now, the time frame's taken care of because it's an 8-week challenge and we've got specific start and end dates. Now, everything should be measured so you know how you're going. And ideally, whenever you set a goal, you want to frame it in a way that even a 7-year-old could understand, and even that 7-year-old could tell you if you are on track for achieving it or not. And this is why it's so important to tell people what your goals are. And the reason we frame it this way is because if a 7-year-old doesn't clearly understand what your goal is, then the reality is your unconscious mind, your brain is not going to be able to grab or know what it is that it's aiming for. And all goal setting is about activating what we call our reticular activating system. It's part of your limbic brain system. There are multiple areas of the brain that this connects, but this is what helps you start to filter and tune into the things that are going to help you achieve your goals. The classic example of this is if ever you've been looking at buying a new car and you get clear on what you want to buy. Once you've decided what you want to buy, you start seeing that car everywhere. Now, it's not that car has suddenly appeared magically everywhere all of a sudden. They were always there. Your brain just didn't tune into it when it was around, when it was in your awareness. So this is the whole point. When we set goals, we start to focus on what we want. Now, whenever you set a goal as well, if you find yourself saying what you don't want, that's okay. Get clear on what you don't want, but always back it up with how will it be instead. That's what you don't want. What is it? Because if you focus on what you don't want, that is what you're going to get as well, because that's what we start to tune into. All right, so before the challenge starts, if you haven't had a scan, make sure you do these measurements. And the benefit of doing these measurements is you can measure them and check in at any time. Understanding that your first measurements are just a number. This is your baseline for comparison. They don't have a lot of meaning other than what you attach to them. Ultimately, at midway is our check-in point to see how are we going. Are you on track? Do you need to refine anything? Do you need to keep doing what you're doing? Do you need to change something? That's the beauty of the 8-week challenge. You can check in at the halfway and know and still have time to make a change to get the result you're looking for, and then at the after point. Now, if you don't do the midway check, what happens is you get to the end, and if you haven't done as well as you wanted to, well, you've had 8 weeks to be able to check in and see how are things going, what do you need to change.
Because when you give us this information as coaches, we can help you. If you're on track, we can keep you on track. If you're not on track, we can help you identify what are the 2 or 3 key behaviors that you can change that will make the most significant difference. And it's not about changing everything, it's just about making some small changes. All right, then when we get into our goal setting, now we've got some measures. Now some people need the measures before they set their goals. Other people will look at the goals and then do the measurement. Just decide for yourself whatever works best for you, and whatever feels right is the thing to do, as long as you do them both. So, if you do one thing this week, it is set your goals for the challenge before the challenge starts. This is so important because it creates your focus and your motivation. I have a saying which is, when you want to do something, you've got to make your reason why bigger than your reason why not. So when it gets to Friday, it's your 4th or your 5th training session, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and you really want to stay in bed instead of doing that 5th training session. The thing is, once you've done 4, when we start to, our ego kicks in. It's like, you've done well, you've trained hard for 4 days, you deserve a sleep in, and that's okay in your off season and when you don't have a goal to work towards. So make sure your goal will help you override that little self-talk. That little supportive talk that says, oh, you've earned this. What is the goal that's going to have you saying no to dessert on when you're out for dinner on Saturday night? What is the goal that you're excited about that is going to get you out of bed on that 5th morning in a row to go and just come and do that one more training session? Because those are the things that make a difference. So make your reason why bigger than your reason why not. So your goal during the challenge is to, and frame it as if you already have it. So say that as if, give it a date, so you know the end of the challenge, and talk about it as if you already have it. So it's on or before the end of the challenge, and I have, I am, I've got, like as if you already have it. So you start to frame it and have that experience, and it starts to make you try it on. It's a bit like going clothes shopping. You try something on and you decide whether you like it or not. So as you try on the goal and you decide you like it, this is where our kinesthetic part of our body starts to kick in and create that emotional drive to achieve it. So get very clear. And it's okay, have multiple goals or multiple ways of measuring it. Because when you have multiple goals, you're more likely to achieve at least some of them, and it's a success. If you have one very strict goal and you don't achieve it, then it's easy to feel like you failed, even though you might get close to it. So set several goals or several ways of measuring what your challenge outcome is, but have one key overarching one. And once you've got that, you'll already check in and find out, okay, why is this goal important to me? Because writing goals, this is all good. You've got to, and make sure you write it down with pen and paper. There's a lot of science behind the feel of the pen. Seeing it and saying it back to yourself all at the same time increases the relevance and the power of the goal. Then get really clear, connect to that goal. Why is it important? And if it's like, oh, because it would be nice, then it's not big enough. That's not going to get you out of bed on a Friday morning. It's got to be like, frame it in a way and get clear on what it is you want to achieve and why is that important, and be honest with yourself. If you don't feel something in your gut or in your heart when you're thinking about having that goal, actually having it, having achieved it, then it's not going to drive you enough. If you're thinking of your goal as, oh, one day it'll be nice, so if it's still in the future or it's out of reach, you don't have it yet, you can't connect to what it's going to feel like to own it. So try it on, notice how it feels, get excited, and then embrace that feeling. Lock it in and use that as your motivation. Now, I mentioned a moment ago, when you write your goal, make sure you write it down on pen and paper. Even if it's a scrap of paper and you go through that process of writing it with your pen, please make sure you do that. It's such an important part of the goal framing and getting experience. Now, with all this, I'll take a little moment to step back. People talk about your brain as being a goal-getting machine. I want you to remember your brain, it sets and achieves goals all day long. When they're immediate goals, they're really easy. When we start extending them out, this is where we need to build our muscle around this a little. So I just want you to notice, as you listen to this, unless you're driving, there will be, you'll have a pen or a paper or a coffee cup or something like that. So just pick one of those objects and just go ahead and pick it up. And if you've just picked it up and it is now in your hand, congratulations, you just set a goal and you achieved it. And we do all these little micro things, these micro goals all the time, all day, that we don't even think about. Then when we extend them out over an hour, we have to think a bit more about it. Now we can start to stretch out, okay, what's your goal for the day? And a day, there's lots of little moving factors that could influence how that goal goes, but this is how you start to build your muscle about extending out the time frame for your goal. So start to create this and again, get excited about the outcome. Now, the third thing about your goal as well is now you've set your goal, I want you to focus now on how will you know you have it? What is your evidence procedure? What's the proof that you've achieved it? Because if you don't have this, it's easy to achieve it and then just keep going beyond it and wonder why you're still working on this. So people who, let's take running a marathon, for example, if you're doing an event or HBF run, whatever it might be, some people will know that they've achieved their outcome because they've run underneath the banner at the end and they've seen the time on the timer as they come through. For some people, their evidence procedure is getting the finisher medal. For some people, and this is not so relevant now, but I know in the past, is opening up the newspaper the day after and finding their time recorded and seeing it printed in the newspaper. So get clear on what is your proof? How will you know? What's your evidence procedure that you have achieved the goal? And create a picture of this, a mental picture, and that is the thing that your brain will hook onto and start going to chase and create. It might not happen exactly how you want it to, but you will get there when you're clear on what that outcome is. All right, and this is where we talk about when I achieve my goal, I will know because. So write down your evidence procedure there. And write it down because in a week or two's time, you're going to come back to this and go, oh, that's right, and then come back. So now you've written these three things, I want you to make sure you write them down in your book and keep them on your bedside table or somewhere where you can easily access at any time, because I want you to read these three things at the start of every week. You just want to reframe and load it in your mind, because the biggest danger of doing these processes is you start off all excited, you've got this goal, and then we get into the execution. We get into rolling through the workouts, the strategy, the doing the journey, and it's easy to get bogged down in the detail or feel like you're just on repeat. So when you get a chance to come back, this just helps reframe, picture, take your brain forward to the future. It removes the pain of the workouts. It makes it all worthwhile, and it just helps you refocus as to why you're doing this. And just reading through it once every week can be enough to then start to build this. Even better is doing it every day when you wake up. All right, so now you've got your goal. 3 questions to answer, because knowledge, goal setting, that's all good. It's the execution. You have to go and implement it. You have to do something in order to make it happen. So in order to achieve your goals, you will need to, what do you need to start doing? What are 3 to 5 daily behaviors that if you did them consistently every day would get you towards your goal? And go ahead and write those down. All right, now you know what you need to start doing. Do the same for what you need to stop doing. What are 3 to 5 behaviors that you are currently doing or have been doing up until the start of the challenge that are going to stop you from getting your goals? If you keep doing them, they're going to interfere and prevent you from achieving what you want. 3 to 5 things, and write them down now. What do you need to stop in order to achieve your goal? And instead of stopping, just think you're going to replace them. You're going to replace those activities with what you're starting to do. And then finally, what are 3 to 5 key things that you have been doing consistently, possibly without you even noticing, that you are doing that, if you keep doing, will support you in achieving your goals? And write those down. Now you've got those, plan your day. Commit your day and structure them so that you know, how will you know when you're doing the things that you're not supposed to? And what is your plan for interrupting that strategy? How will you interrupt that? How will you stop it? So that you can then start doing the things you need to do. And by knowing what you should be doing instead, you can switch that. But be aware of how you know you are doing that thing, because so many things will happen as habits. And the beauty of habits is we don't think about them, we just do them. And this is why I know I lived in Spain for a little while, and we had this amazing breakfast cereal. Now, if you're trying to lose weight or cut your calories, anything out of a cardboard box for breakfast is probably some of the worst things you could eat. Now, I'd made plans to then at least decrease my portion size. But for a month, it didn't happen, because I'd get up in the morning and I would just run on autopilot. And it wasn't until I'd had my food and my breakfast and it was on my way to my work that I was like, oh, damn it, I was meant to eat less this morning. Oh, well, I'll start tomorrow. So what I had to do was the night before, I would get a small bowl out and I would put it on the kitchen bench before I went to bed, when I remembered what my plan was. And that was my trigger for when I got up in the morning to look at that bowl and go, oh, this is my breakfast serving. And that's what got me into eating less for breakfast and reducing my portion size. So with the things that you need to stop doing, give yourself a plan to help you switch easily and effortlessly to what you should be doing. All right, now looking back to the past, if you've tried to achieve this goal, and here's the reality, if this is a new goal for you that you've not tried in the past, I want you to think of a different goal, a time in the past when you've set out to achieve something and you've not achieved it in the time frame you set out to do it. And get clear, what were your barriers to success? Because those barriers of that goal will be the same barriers you will create for yourself in this one. And by identifying them now, number one, you can be aware of them so you can overcome them. Number two, you can let us know so we can call you on this and give you some strategies around clearing this. So what stopped you from achieving things in the past? And whatever comes to mind, just write it down. These are what we call limiting beliefs, and the limiting beliefs create your reality just as much as your genuine, your supportive beliefs. So let's help clear those limiting beliefs so you can work through that better. That's in the past. And what do you think are the things right now that are preventing you from achieving your goal? Because if you've set this a goal, this means you don't actually have it right now. So what is stopping you from already having it? And write this down. This is what we mean by the present. Now, create a plan. How will you overcome these barriers? Is it just simply having a training buddy? Maybe you need to do this challenge as a team so you have some accountability or someone to pick you up in the morning and make sure you get to the gym. But just find a way so that problem ceases to exist. And your support network. Now, this could be your loved ones, your family, your training partners, maybe you've got a team, maybe it's the coaches, whatever is important to you. There are no right or wrong answers with this. Who is your support network? If you're doing this and you live with a partner, or you're married, or however your life situation works, maybe they are going to be one of your key supporting factors, so that you can make sure that you're on the same page. If you prepare meals with your partner, I highly recommend getting them at least partially on board with this challenge so that you can support each other in doing this, so that they understand. So when it comes to Saturday afternoon and you would normally open a beer or have a glass of wine, you can both be on the same page and do something different. And remembering that these things, if you're stopping doing behaviors that you love, make sure you tell yourself just for a brief period of time. If it's 1 week, or if it's 2 weeks, the 2 weeks of not having coffee, if it's 6 weeks of no alcohol, give yourself a time frame so that you can convince yourself it's not forever. It's just for a brief period of time while I achieve my goals, and then I can choose if I want to bring some of these things back if necessary. So that's it. Please feel free to rewind and go over any of these points before. I just want to reiterate how important this goal setting is. It might seem like a simple task, but it is so significant. The reason that most people skip goal setting is either they don't know how to, or they don't put enough importance on it. They just think that the action is important, but this will make everything else fall into place. So if you've just been listening to this, you haven't actually written it down yet, pull out your diary and schedule a time, 10 or 15 minutes, sometime before the start of the challenge, where you can just sit down, go through this once again, and work through it. As always, we're here to support you, so jump on the team page and write any questions, any ideas, any thoughts that you have, share what you've learned from this, or shoot us an email for your relevant studio, either East Perth at f45training.com.au or Victoria Park at f45training.com.au, or contact us via Facebook or give us a call. We're here to support you. We want you to absolutely nail this challenge and do your best. I will finish by saying it won't be smooth sailing. There'll be some challenges along the way. This is why it's called a challenge. But by doing this, you'll have a better idea of how to overcome it, and you can utilize us as a support. This is probably the most significant factor and feature of this challenge, that the people who have consistently done well with this are the people that utilize the resources and the team around them. You're not on your own with this. This is meant to be fun. You're going to learn stuff, and we want to see you get some amazing results. So I look forward to seeing your comments. With that, go forth, prepare your week, and look forward to seeing you on the studio soon.